What is the contract that we sign off on when we engage with and watch dating reality series that time and time again show us that their main plot line is the harm, trauma, and exploitation of Black women, when they continually show that they have no respect for Black women, especially phenotypical dark-skinned Black women. Now, I did a video back in 2021 about the abusive nature of the series Married at First Sight. And I actually wanted to revisit this topic as we sit at the crossroad at whatever this last season of Love is Blind DC was, and the anomaly that was Love Island USA Season 6, where somehow, even with the harm, trauma, and exploitation of dark-skinned Black women, they came out on top. They, as in the dark-skinned Black women, and really PPG, still came out on top. And as much as I do share in the excitement and exuberance of that summer series, of seeing two dark-skinned Black women end up in loving, glorious, beautiful relationships that have still flourished post-filming, I personally have little to no faith that Love Island can replicate what they got in season 6 of the USA franchise. I do not believe that the magic that season stirred could ever be replicated, because the history of abuse, trauma, manipulation, and harm is far too long, too constant, and too steady of a trend, really more than a trend, too steady of a main attribute throughout these dating reality shows. So much so that I believe when we watch these shows, we are signing a social contract that says watching a Black woman be manipulated, lied to, and abused is enjoyable and riveting to me as the viewer. These dating shows launch the abuse onto their cast and primes the viewer to villainize, demonize, and publicly shame not the production team with all the power, but the castmate who endured the worst of it. Now, we just finished with Love is Blind Season 7, which I acknowledge for this video, went back and watched. I put this video on pause because of all the online discourse. I thought that watching this season of Love is Blind DC would be worth my while, and no, it absolutely was not. I thought maybe somehow this show would be new and invigorating. It was dull. It was horribly edited. The continuity was completely off. I was disgusted. My thesis remains steady, not changed, reconfirmed and validated. My argument is sound. Dating shows heavily rely on the trauma, manipulation, and abuse of Black women as their central plotline. Now, what is unique about Love is Blind, we watch a white-presenting male contestant endure emotional abuse as he confusingly stays committed to a partner outside of the pods when they clearly don't actually like each other.
I'm more emotionally intelligent.
This brings up
and intelligent.
We're just gonna gloss over that. This brings up a fantastic. See, now we're matching. You like it?
So you changed your dress clothes to dress clothes?
I don't know why Nick stood by Hannah's side and allowed that woman to berate him and demean him and lambast and dehumanize him the way that she did in a show where every other couple was ending their relationships for far more trivial reasons. But I will acknowledge that on this particular season, and really when we look at the history of Love is Blind and the lawsuits it endures, while Black women have often been the central plot lines of trauma, they often aren't the ones bringing about the lawsuits. Plenty of that trauma doesn't even make it to air. And I think it's very interesting when you dig into the lawsuits that dating reality series have seen, that it is often non-Black contestants whose relationships, for whatever reason, do not make it to the final series, and we still have Black women consistently making it in and consistently being maligned, lied to, and mistreated. Like, what is that about? Now, to get back to Love is Blind DC specifically, we have Ashley, who is partnered with Tyler. They do make it all the way to the altar, even though Tyler has children, 3, with a lesbian woman. One was in vitro, the twins, 2 of them, 1 gestation period, were naturally conceived. And there is no way production, there is no way the casting team, there is no way the executive team, the agency, the production company, and Netflix, there is no way that they did not know that Tyler had children. You could do the credit check that they do when you apply for a mortgage, and that will pull up that he's in arrears. That man owes child support. The amount of discourse that has come out of Tyler hiding and lying, that has been able to villainize Ashley. Yeah, I mean, do I condone her staying with the man who blatantly lied and who's not taking care of his children? Absolutely not. But I'm not going to be invested in dogpiling in the outrage cycle against her when I understand these shows continually put Black women in these precarious positions where they are not finding out deeply harmful information until they are already emotionally invested in their partner. I don't know what production actually told her. I don't know. Then we have Monica, who was partnered with Steven.
I get boners all the time. The wind blows the right direction and I get a boner.
Who was just a kinky man. A man full of fetishes and kinks.
I'm all right with being associated with meat, apparently. So.
Steven, we'll get to you.
We'll get to you in a minute, buddy.
And the texting situation that led to their bombastic breakup doesn't make any sense.
I had a moment of weakness where somebody texted me and they were talking about a heart condition. And then immediately after that, they go into, so I've gone into some interesting fetishes lately. Understanding that this is probably a reaction or a conversation that I should not entertain, I was still curious how you made this jump. So I said, what kind of fetishes?
But also, Steven reeks of kinks. It oozes from his sweat glands. Like, you can look at that man and see the way that he sweats and tell that he is a kinky, white, redheaded man. How did this not come out? Well, on purpose. On purpose. And then Marissa and Ramses. Where I believe production attempted to manufacture another AD and Clay situation. However, they couldn't get Ramses all the way to the altar to break Marissa's heart. Instead, they poorly edited. We don't see a continuity in their conversations. Rather, we see Marissa painted as somewhat of a dimwit who lacks depth and just has a deep physical connection with the man, and they seem to never be able to have serious conversation. It sets Marissa up to look incredibly stupid, and even as we understand the archetype that is Ramses, a man who will engage in progressive, radical, even Black feminist discourse.
Yeah, like I just don't really care to like try to follow traditional expectations of what like masculinity should look like. It's like masculinity is like what I make it.
Okay, cool. So we can disagree to have condom sex from here on out.
It's not really enjoyable, baby. Sex is supposed to be like mutually enjoyable. Like it's not something that guys, ever have the pressure to having to think about.
And that man ain't never opened Nan Num book. He's not a reading ass Negro. He just knows how to put some syntax with some nice words together and make things sound good. And even though we know that man to be in the wrong, we are still set up. The show is edited and conveyed in a way where we are set up to be totally turned off by the Black woman, regardless of how she is clearly being treated in this show. Now I have to give a brief interlude to shout out our sponsor, Surfshark. Thank you for sponsoring this video. You guys should keep your household connected and secure with a VPN that offers global server selection with over 3,200 different servers via 100 different locations. Surfshark offers online security and privacy and removes the danger of public Wi-Fi. Sign up today to get your special holiday deal. You can go to surfshark.com/JulesyDeal, JoulzyDeal, for 4 extra months of Surfshark at an unbeatable price. That's surfshark.com/Julesy deal. Shout out to Surfshark for making this video possible, and please turn off your ad blocker. It costs me a lot of money to produce these videos. I want to give you guys a good engaging topic of discussion. But even if you just turn your ad blocker off for the first 10 minutes of the video and turn it back on to finish the rest, you would be much appreciated. It really goes a long way to helping creators and, like myself, have the ability to keep coming back and producing better and higher quality videos. Thank y'all. Now, let's dig into the lawsuits, starting with Love is Blind. Love is Blind has a long history of lawsuits and allegations that have been lobbied against the franchise. So much so, in 2022, Mary Claire published a complete timeline of lawsuits and allegations brought against Love is Blind. These lawsuits include how in July 2022, Variety and CNN reported that season 2 participants, Jeremy Hartwell, had filed a lawsuit against Netflix, production company Kinetic Content, and casting company Delirium TV, accusing the 3 companies of various labor law violations, including fostering inhumane working conditions and paying cast members less than minimum wage. Hartwell would go on to win a $1.4 million settlement in this class action lawsuit. In October of 2023, People reported that season 5 cast member Tran Dang, who filmed the season but was not included in the final production, had sued Kinetic Connect and Delirium TV over claims of sexual assault, false imprisonment, and negligence. January 2024, Variety and USA Today report that season 5 castmate Renee Poosh had filed a lawsuit against Netflix and production company Delirium TV, seeking to nullify her contract and claiming intentional infliction of emotional distress along with violations of various California labor and civic codes. During her season, Poosh, hope I'm not butchering that name too much, became engaged to Carter Wall, who per Variety landed a spot on the series despite being allegedly broke, jobless, unhoused, violent, and addicted to amphetamines and alcohol. Some of these things come up if they were just doing the proper checks of their castmate. For a show that is so hypersexual as most dating shows are they not running physicals and basic health tests on their contestants before they put them in an apartment together? In May 2024, The New Yorker runs this story about Is Love is Blind a Toxic Workplace, noting that the cast had to be camera ready by 8 a.m. and would not return to their hotel rooms until 2 or 3 a.m. Late night dates were optional, but there were strong incentives to do them. If you failed to make a connection or the producers lost interest in your stories, you would just get cut. Contestants were working for up to 20 consecutive hours. And each morning, producers gave them a journal to write in along with a schedule of dates with the other contestants and a list of questions to explore and a theme for each day, such as sex or family. We know these shows are heavily manipulated. And that's why I often call into question how we decide to hold on to the rage that we know these shows are going to incite with us because of their history of how they treat their contestants and how they especially treat the Black women. And then we agree, we engage with continually dunking on these contestants, participating in these outrage cycles against them, even though we know that the producers heavily control, influence, and manipulate these shows. Now, I wanted us to intersect at the crossroads that is Love Island Season 6 USA, an anomaly of the dating series world because, by my estimation, one castmate changed the entire season and made it an enjoyable watching experience for a show that aired 5 to 6 days a week. How many weeks in this summer? Baby, we were all riveted. We were all tuning in because Cordell Beckham absolutely changed the energy and the vibrations of that series, making it a very enjoyable watch.
In a world where Serena and Cordell meets for one sole purpose, to find love. There may be ups.
Oh, God.
There may be downs. But will they get through this roller coaster of love?
Find out.
To find out true connection with them.
Love Island.
11 single celebrities on a journey into the unknown.
This is a series which spans over several nations, with the original being Love Island UK. They also have an Australian version of the show, and it has had a string of lawsuits. July 2023, 2 former Love Island USA crew members filed a lawsuit against producers ITV and NBC Universal, alleging violations of California's employment laws and mistreatment of contestants. They allege that racist and abusive practices negatively impacted the mental health of show contestants. And when those concerns were brought by crew members to executive producers, the crew members were summarily fired. The lawsuit also alleges that Love Island USA producers prevented a black contestant, season 4's Serenity Springs, from succeeding on the show by barring her from making connections with male castmates. Like most other dating reality and really reality shows at large, lawsuits have followed Love Island. But Love Island season 6 USA was absolutely a fluke. And I do think we would have gotten different versions of the male castmates, including Miguel and Kendall, if it were not for Cordell Beckham. And we see Kendall in that series be one of the vehicles of being aggressive and harmful to the black women contestants. We see Rob also participate in backtalk and gossiping that maligns and manipulates the dark-skinned black women's participation on the show. Those boys wanting to kick off Janae.
Akeem had no one in here that was interested in him. Neither is Janae. It's 2 + 2. I mean, am I crazy? Like,
baby. I actually believe that Cordell is an emotionally mature young man who desires and respects dark-skinned black women. And because he has a famous brother in Odell Beckham, he does not desire fame, at least not in the clickbaity do anything for clout way that most male contestants on these dating shows sort of show up and revel in some of the most deplorable behavior, because they're really in it to just gain a following after the show, not because they really care for any of the women that are placed before them. Now, I think Miguel would have been a completely different character, and I really appreciate that he showed his softer side on this show, because Miguel comes from a group of British Innits man.
He's the sort of guy in London, he picks up every fucking girl. Every single girl, bro. He's like everyone's fucking type.
Who have also been on other dating reality shows like Too Hot to Handle. And it's not to say that Cordell was like the only good thing about the series. I think the women in themselves are great, but a lot of great women have shown up on these shows and not been able to have their real selves, the real great potential of themselves shine through, because they are facing so much trauma and manipulation, and the producers are forcing these particular line stories.
I got told by people that work at ITV that I got put in at that time because there was so much backlash on the outside for lack of diversity.
Wow.
That's why I got put in at that time. So bear in mind, these people know what my type is. They know what Brad and Chugs' type is, but they put me in at that time and gave me that entrance because they thought, okay, this is going to shut people up.
Wow.
And that's where, you know how I said to you off air, like the first Black Bombshell let me have a story.
Yeah.
They didn't give me that story because they were just ticking boxes.
And the producers attempted to do that here. If you watch the series, we got so much of Kayla and Aaron. We got so much of Rob.
you remind me of like a bee.
A bee?
Because Rob is like the standard white girl dreamboat, and he was already an influencer with a large following. He was there to bring on not just the white girls, but you know, whiteness is desirable to almost every group of people, right? It is the standard. And so Rob was definitely meant to be the heartthrob that reached the viewers. And they spent a lot of time on these characters, and they threw a lot of things at them, and they created a lot of scenarios to try to drum up friction between Cordell and Serena, between Janae and whomever her partners were. And Janae and Serena really do come out on top, along with Leah, who partners up with Miguel. But it was extraordinarily beautiful to see Janae come out in a really beautiful relationship with Kenny Rodriguez. I think the slow grind, no matter how much they try to villainize Serena and make her look like this totally cold, cut off, unapproachable, strung up black woman, I really appreciate the slow grind of the relationship, the intentionality in their connection. And, you know, I don't really try to invest too much in parasocial relationships, but I do hope that they have a fulfilling, joyful time together for however long their relationship does last. But I do think Cordell's presence and the influence he had on the men in getting Kendall to calm down, and Kendall seeing that Cordell and Serena, Kenny and Janae are about to come out on top, and that changing his approach to the show, because that boy was clearly just on there to play the game. He was finna play the game at any cost, do whatever he had to do to win.
If I didn't get those heart rates up after that, I don't fucking know what else I could have done.
And he was very much so in their face, very much so barking at them, very much so talking down to the black women on this series.
Serena saying some crazy shit. Fuck you, Kendall. As much as we have love for you, I still gotta rub us the wrong way.
I'm curious of what his energy was like in the house. Is it what we saw? Was he really a genuine friend to y'all? Was he being messy? Was he just kind of just always just going with the wind and the flow of the vibe? Like, what's the real, tea on that?
I think he was a genuine friend to Cordell.
Yeah, he was genuine, and he was always going with the flow and the vibe, but he was very genuine for sure. And
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I do think he was about his homeboys, for sure. He's a guy's guy, for sure.
Your man's friend is not your friend.
Yeah.
That is kind of like that situation. Like, he's genuine to like who he's like loyal to, and that was Cordell. I mean, that's fine. The only reason I was hurt was because I thought me and him were like close like that too.
And I would hope that this season that has come out so beloved by so many would show the producers how little it actually takes to create a truly engaging and profitable season, because Love Island USA season 6 still peddled in some of the grotesque, immoral, overtly sexual, the fixation on thinness and skinny bodies being shown in a very hypersexual manner. The games never made sense.
Do you think Janae's body count is higher or lower than Leah's? Lower. I swear to God, she lied to me.
It was just to get them in compromising poses, to show them in sexual imagery. And yeah, the show definitely still has an issue with desirability politics, with fat phobia. The way the Casa people showed up, particularly the way that the producers forced the boys' hands and how they engaged with the Casa girls and trying to stir drama, trying to stir more trauma, trying to manipulate, because at this point, of the 4 couples, you had 2 dark-skinned black women that were clearly going to come out on top, as they did. Even with how enjoyable this season is, how much people loved it, even with that, it still had its problems, it still had its issues, it still had crossed a lot of ethical lines in how it showcased. And I'm not even that hardcore pushing back against that. I mean, I might need to. Let's see some plus size. Let's see some diversity in bodies on these shows. Let's see some diversity and sexuality and gender expression. Like, let's really get into it and like be that show. I don't know, with Love Island's history of lawsuits, with the way they have historically treated their characters and the way the seasons have often gone, that they can replicate something that they clearly were fighting against. But shout out to Cordell, Serena, Kenny, Janae, and Leah and Miguel for beating them producers back. And giving us something that was enjoyable to watch, because it did not feel like I was signing this contract to say that my viewership was co-signing the maligning and mistreatment of black women. Now, I do though want us going forward to consider, when we engage in these shows, when we engage in these series, when we get online and we do all our reviews and do all our discourse and we really drum up engagement for these shows, what is the social contract that we're signing off on when we choose to invest in that level of engagement in a brand, in a series that has never shown us any care or respect for its black women contestants? From the Married at First Sight brand, which continually puts black women in relationships with lying, deceptive men. From Love is Blind, where the producers elect to hide pertinent information that they have very easy access to. From Love Island. All these brands and these shows have shown a pattern of abusive practices, of false imprisonment, of trying to liquor their contestants up, putting them in vulnerable positions, all for a storyline to keep us tuned in. And we as viewers need to take back our power. And I do believe we need to be more selective in how we engage with these dating shows that have historically shown no respect, no care, and no compassion, especially for its black women contestants. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you like this video, you like what I'm talking about, please share it. It lets me know what I should be doing more of. And shout out to Surfshark for sponsoring. Deuces.